I need to get my it's ruined. Where'd it go? I need to get my controls right. Okay, we're starting off strong. Welcome to Project Geospatial, everybody. This is Late Night Geo, and I'm back with Courtney Miller. Courtney is, yes, after I guess you couldn't stand seeing me by myself and talking about Geospatial for the last 2 weeks on my own. So
yeah, I got to enjoy my second vaccine last Project Geospatial. So
yeah. With that said, if anybody's watching this and would love to come on, it's still an open invite. Just PM me on Twitter, or you can hit up us on our Discord channel. You just go to projectgeospatial.com/live and click on the chat link. And if you hit us up, we will gladly send you an invite. You can join us on the show. So with that said, we're going to get started because we have just a bunch of topics to bring up tonight. First off, let me bring up my news topic for the week. Let me do that wonderful screen sharing setup as soon as I find it, because I'm not doing well with
technology
finding my windows tonight. Too many windows. Oh no. Let's see. Where did my windows go?
This is like a good pandemic problem. It's like too many Zoom meetings, too many tabs, too many windows.
Oh, here we go. There it is. And here we go. All right. So what this is a big news is, I think it was this week or within the last couple of days, Google implemented the time-lapse series within Google Earth, the web version, right? And actually, this has a lot of benefits. So I'm actually zoomed into Washington Dulles Airport, so you can see at the top right-hand corner here there's a time-lapse functionality. So I'm clicking on a lot of stuff. Okay, of course, this little bubble here is lingering like it's not supposed to, so I'm just going to refresh it.
Take a look at looking at a very awesome, there you go, screen.
Oh, here we go. So I've just pressed play. It's going to go through all the different years within Landsat. You can see the changes within Google Earth. This is built up of free imagery. Now, look, most people probably don't realize, at least people watching and think this is a new thing.
Oh man,
it's kind of not. So if you could still download the thick client of Google Earth within you can download the thick client of Google Earth on Google Earth's website, and the time-lapse functionality is still within Google Earth itself. And you can actually look at the actual satellite imagery time-lapse within that application. I think that's always been more impressive. And that's been existing for a while. Now, the key here is actually implemented within the web, and they actually have a lot of kind of hot locations you can look at, pretty interesting use cases for the time lapse. Now, here's some quick examples here. You can always search for a specific location. You look at featured locations here. So that's interesting.
I'm guessing the land use changed around Dulles at some point. Obviously, it looks like we're kind of moving from, was it surrounded by more kind of farmland and was gradually developed out?
You can see this is exploded. So, I mean, if I just pause it, you can see how urbanized it is. And I'm actually in this area.
I'm curious, what it started with. Did they start out kind of in a semi-rural place?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially in the 80s, the Dulles Toll Road was a fairly new thing. Actually, you can see if we can, 1990, I think where's the Dulles Toll Road? Here it is right here being built out. It's kind of a big deal. And it's of course this is the actual toll road here going all the way to Tyson's. I'm not sure that so that was the roads going straight to Dulles, but eventually there was a toll road privately owned that was built that supposedly heads all the way to you can see right here, it goes all the way to Leesburg. And so when this was built and the several other roads, key roads, and by the way, this used to be all lights going down. Of course, I'm getting a little out of hand, but the massive urban development, even as early as 2001 and 2005.
There's still kind of some agrarian land use there.
Yeah, and this tons of it. I actually remember there used to be a lot of equestrian clubs and country, kind of country, things down here, because I actually went to high school in this area. And then, of course, you bring it up to the modern age. Of course, why isn't the timeline stop working? Google, come on. Your stuff's hanging on me.
Everybody's watching maps tonight,
Yeah, if you can see that the agriculture pretty much disappeared.
Yeah, that is really remarkable.
Especially over this way. You got to go really west, and the land's just incredibly built up. But that's we got distracted with this one area. Let me kind of show you what else this feature has. This is built off of Earth Engine. So if you got to kind of go to Earth Engine, there's this kind of dashboard where you can actually go to each one of these hotspots or themes: urban expansion, forest change, water, infrastructure, agriculture. So developers.google.com/earth-engine/timelapse/videos. And you can go here, you can view the 2D and 3D time lapse of each one of these items, and even download the video as well. So they allow this probably because it's purely based off of Landsat. So you're not zooming into any particular location, but Landsat's a freely available data source. So they're not using any particular satellite vendor.
It's great that you can create your own videos too from the animations.
Oh yeah, incredible. Yeah. I don't know how much you can create your own videos from what they provide within Google Earth itself. But at the very least, you can download the existing videos right here. So at least the kind of the hot use cases. So if I click on, let's say, urban expansion, where's a good hotspot here that I know of?
Rio's probably a good one.
Rio? You think Rio? I always like looking at Dubai.
I would say Rio. Dubai is going to be interesting because it's going to be the color changes, if nothing else, is going to be very drastic.
Yeah, I'm sure they have it in here, but I can always go back to the actual Google Earth and go to Dubai.
Oh, there we go.
Test out how good I am with my... Look how fast I did that.
That was impressive.
It's actually right there. Not quite as fast, but you can see... the time lapse working up here. Here we go. So you have this brief period where eventually, there you go. Within let's kind of go back to that point. It's a matter of 4 years. Well, kind of hard to say because it's it jumps between a few years. But I think these islands were built within almost the course of a couple years. These artificial islands, it's nuts.
They just basically kind of pop up on the map. There's not even a gradual progression. Yeah.
Yeah, and Dubai just exploded. And these are resorts. All these are kind of little resort places, and it started off from just nothing. So it's always impressive to watch Dubai. And by the way, this is their islands of the world. Each one of these islands is supposed to represent a different country. That's what they made this resort off of.
Man, that's a lot of choice too. How do you make that decision?
For what? Which island do you stay at?
Yeah, which island do you stay at?
Well, it's almost like Epcot, where do you
just kind of travel around?
Where do you go? I mean, you just go to hopping around each one eventually, right? Take the tour around the world. There you go.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So the other thing to show here is Earth Engine Engine itself has an example of the types working, and they also have kind of some quick hot spots as well. Earth Engine is kind of the underlying machine learning on imagery. I mean, they have a lot of data sources. Man, just to go into Earth Engine alone and explain it, it's kind of it's icing on the cake of what Earth Engine is capable of and what it actually does. And we'll have to do that in a separate episode. I do have an episode hosted last year with Sabrina Cito, who actually does a lot of Earth Engine best practices and training for a wider community. She doesn't work for Google, at least I don't think so. She didn't at the time, but there is a massive Earth Engine community that has done a lot of amazing things around it. So with that said, you can easily click on something within the Earth Engine interface, and I think in some cases it probably could work better than the Google Earth interface. So I think there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes there with taking up your memory, etc.
The nice thing is that they kind of pre-select certain time lapses that would be interesting. So if you're looking to illustrate climate change or land use changes, they've got them all categorized. And to me, that's what is so interesting. It's not that the data didn't exist, but now it's packaged in a way that is public friendly.
The other thing that's interesting about this, at least doing it with an Earth Engine, it's actually feasible that you can create your own time lapses based off the other data sources within Earth Engine. Like this is time Landsat based, but there are other data sources from other satellite sensors like MODIS or Sentinel out there that you can actually reasonably create your own time lapses with those data sets too. So using it on top of Landsat, that's honestly just the beginning, and only scratching the surface is what people can take advantage of. So interesting here. I guess we're supposed to be seeing a mine time lapse, and it's not moving along
enough to see.
There must be a point where it just kind of explodes with activity here. I didn't
like we're gonna see the crater essentially.
Well, this is kind of all it. I guess this mine isn't as interesting as I thought it was going to be. Or I'm just not noticing it. I don't know.
I don't see anything, no. But I can see that being, again, something started moving there.
I moved it to a different location. This is always interesting. You can see the deforestation in Bolivia here.
Oh, wow. Boy, that looks so it's both organized and totally haphazard.
Why do you build so Joy of Geo is saying I'm giving him a lot of teasers for things. Yeah,
a lot of good song lyrics.
FYI, you can look for this yourself at earthengine.google.com/timelapse. So this is another impressive deforestation. I say impressive, but incredibly overwhelmingly disappointing in how we're just stripping the rainforest here too. So
yeah.
So next item, you know what? I'm going to pass the buck off to you. Which one do you want to go over?
Let's see. Well, I guess if we're going to talk land use, let's go ahead and talk about San Francisco.
Good question. I don't know which one that is.
That is the one that was from
right there,
GovTech, and under Civic Innovations.
This one?
Yeah. Let's see. Hold on.
This is the only link you gave me.
Yep. Okay. So
what am I looking at?
Okay. I'm getting there. So this week that it announced that San Francisco is looking to hire multiple roles, including a chief data officer. So I think that's interesting is because, one, they have a very robust open data portal where you can find all kinds of information on demographics and health-related, economic, social, whatever you're trying to look for. But they're also trying to start implementing more geospatial and land use and various types of data in platforms that, again, can be explored and used. And one of them, if you go to datasf.org, they have a link to a demo site, which is called SF Building Explorer. Now, what we're seeing up on the screen is it looks like it's very in demo mode. There's a screenshot on the actual San Francisco website that suggests that eventually it's going to have showing permitting and planning applications, historic property tax rolls, and like inspections, complaints. It's a 3D model that essentially allows you to take a look at a snapshot of the building itself, interfaced with the data that comes through City Hall. Now, I think the application of that is that eventually that means we can kind of layer different kinds of data on there as well. And when we're looking at things like, we're now seeing a lot of applications of geospatial tracking of things like the pandemic spread, emergency response, and things like that. This is where the layering of this kind of data is going to become really interesting, because we'll be able to start to see very detailed trends in how buildings are set up. What are their historics? What are we seeing patterns in terms of health related concerns? Where do we see bottlenecks for emergency response? So there's a lot of there's layers and layers of ways in which data can really be utilized to help cities run more efficiently, especially as they become larger and more complex. And it seems to me almost like a given that this is something that cities should be doing, but it really is pretty innovative for San Francisco to be this robust. And so I'm really excited to see what this is going to turn into. Where's Waldo? Eventually, I think what this is going to look like is that you could go and really interface with like a digital city hall, essentially, through the lens of looking at particular buildings. And that's a huge advantage as a city. But I think for just being able to have staffers that are looking at data all day long, there's big implications for cities like St. Louis, where we have a lot of geospatial talent and folks who can come in and kind of take a look at this kind of stuff. And when we learn lessons about like who's getting the vaccine, how did COVID spread, what are the different, where were hospitalizations, things like that. The data that will come out of the pandemic will be what shapes how we respond to the next one. And I think how cities who pay attention to their data and really learn to organize it and make it into a way in which people can utilize it and innovate with it, those are the cities that are going to come out a lot stronger after the next natural disaster, whether it's viruses or bacteria or whatever it is, or earthquakes and things like that. So I live in an area that has surprisingly a very high earthquake possibility. You wouldn't think of it living in the middle of the country, but that's the kind of thing where
possibility. Do you get heavy earthquakes there?
We don't, but we live on where I'm not too far from the New Madrid Fault, and it's like kind of due, I guess. They scared us all in the 90s by some crank predicted there was going to be a big earthquake, and we all stayed home from school and hid out. Turns out it was a total just big trolling of the entire St. Louis region. But I think the lesson there is that cities that learn how to respond to their crises, those are the places people are going to want to live. So as we become more aware of how vulnerable we are as a society. So yay for San Francisco for taking the lead on getting a lot of their city hall data. And I'm super excited to see the direction that the new CDO takes in the next few years.
It is fascinating to see what different cities, I think I kind of did a small rant on state geospatial departments a week or two ago. But it would be interesting to dive into city specific GIS departments and see what unique applications they provide. I know San Francisco is not the only one, and there's a number of cities out there that have some pretty evolved geospatial implementations. So we should do a rack and stack one day or one night. We got a little bit more prepared than we usually are on these late night geo sessions. So
it's Friday night.
Yeah, right. Friday night. So this is like the chill, talk about what we learned,
Yeah.
Or do some kind of separate special episode with that. So we'll see. That's awesome.
Oh,
That's awesome.
I would love to
Obviously,
do a special episode on cities, city data.
Yeah. So obviously there's not a lot of data in this right now, especially since this is this specifically says it's demo. And as Courtney was talking, I dived around the datasf.org, where this is kind of that's not it, based off of. And this is it right here. Obviously, it's this kind of looks like this common, just like a lot of the states do, this common dashboard. I'm not sure if this is Esri built or this is powered by Socrata, which seems to be a lot of the states and cities use this kind of look and feel. They're replicating each other. So it's kind of interesting there. Let's see. Let's go to the next topic at hand. I'm going to throw out there, I'm going to kind of kill these links as we go through here. Eliminate my browser. ISI. Why am I bringing this up? Because ISI just moved its U.S. headquarters, or moving its U.S. headquarters in manufacturing facility to Irvine, California. Why is this a big deal? Well, previously it was a Finland-based company, and it established its first U.S. operations in the U.S. in 2020, so early last year. So it was pretty much overseas, and it's a SAR company. So the fact that they're moving over to the U.S. means they want to do more work with the U.S. government. And actually, it specifically says in here that they have an agreement with, as of April 15th, with In-Q-Tel. So In-Q-Tel is a U.S. intelligence community nonprofit investment organization. So it's pretty big, but that's the reason why. I'm sure that was one of the conditions. Like, hey, you want to work with us? We recommend you be U.S. based, and that's one of our criteria. A lot of the foreign companies tend to either move to the U.S. or sometimes they'll create U.S. subsidiaries to work with the U.S. government, or sometimes they partner with U.S. companies as a throughput to the U.S. government to work with that way. But to do this directly seems to be the most a lot. I've seen a couple companies do this similar thing. So anyway, they're moving to the U.S. and it'll be interesting to see how they grow and expand to provide do even more. For a while, I feel like they were kind of on this they stagnated for a little while, and then all of a sudden, the last year, they just really ISI just really just exploded with new announcements and capabilities. So it's an established SAR company, so they're not new, but they are significantly growing. So interesting there.
Yeah.
Next thing on the list is this is one of yours. What do we got here?
Nope, that was the one that I just did.
This was the link I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
But it had the San Francisco link hidden in there somewhere, huh?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Right there we go.
Okay, that works. Here's this white paper. What is this white paper, Brian? So we got the highlighting the compound risk of COVID-19 environmental pollutants using geospatial technology. And we have a pretty big extract. I mean, it's a massive article. So you want to talk to it a little bit?
Yeah. We're gonna scroll down. Basically,
techno.
This
babble,
takes me back to college, so I really enjoy large abstract papers. But the basically what they're talking about is that as a result of the reduced human activity during COVID-19, environmental pollution reduced quite a bit, and they can actually visualize that thanks to geospatial technology. So it's an imagery. So I think this is really interesting. It's one of those weird silver linings that happen in the pandemic, which is that basically because of the reduced human activity, the flora in many places actually had a very good year. So bad year for humans equals good year for plants. So there's a lesson I think this paper is basically saying.
And the satellite sensor they use, by the way, is Sentinel-5. That's why I stopped here. And by the way, they used Google Earth Engine to evaluate the satellite, the Sentinel-5 data, which, by the way, that's what we were just looking at with the Google Earth, ironically. So
nice tie. So I mean, the basics of it is that there was pretty robust change that happened and keep scrolling down. Lots of, if anyone wants to read all the technical, there's some math and some data and some fun things. But here's the fun part, which is really the maps. So kind of zooming in a little bit, it gives a nice comparisons of floral activity and aerosol absorbing index. So basically like how much is being taken out of the atmosphere due to, plant activity. So you can see that when you kind of look at the different concentrations of different kind of air pollutants and things like that, and they compare U.S., India, what we got here, like Brazil, Russia, France, Spain, UK, and Argentina. So some of the within there, obviously, we got some of the biggest industrial polluters. Basically, we're not seeing. I don't know if is China in there too? No, Mexico. But basically, like, you can take a look and see very specifically that was a very robust change. It's pretty impressive. Like, if you go up a little bit, or there we go, right there. You see Mexico, the huge change you see between the first part of 2020 and the last. So I can't read exactly. I have to pull up the article in terms of the red, specifically, like the colors, the various. But what is?
I'm not familiar with those acronyms for that unit.
I'm not either. So it's basically, that's the Topospheric nitrogen dioxide concentration. So the concentrations of nitrogen in the atmosphere, and you can see like how heavy it is in Mexico, and by the end of the year, like, it's cleaned out. it's kind of impressive. And they have various forms of air pollutants that you can. Yeah.
Sulfur dioxide.
Look at that.
So Mexico right there. So I'm guessing this is like this heavy red is probably Mexico City right there. Yeah.
And at the top, you can see where the U.S. specifically too, like areas where you're going to see heavy density of different kind of pollutants. California, certain parts of the Northeast, certain parts of the South, where you got kind of the humidity that's trapping things in. And what I think is interesting again is that hopefully, maybe when we're talking about the issues of climate change, is it possible to start integrating the idea of reduced human activity? Like, I don't think that was something that was really talked about. We talk about like, stop building stuff, recycle more, do things, but this is a pretty concentrated. We have data now of like, when we stop moving around so much, and we stop our activity a little bit, we actually have the capacity to reduce some of these atmospheric pollutants. Is that something that can be applied to climate change? And I think that that's something we're going to be looking into as more of this data becomes available and more of we learn more lessons from 2020.
Not to be I actually have a huge problem with this section of the article. What a cop out here. Data on the COVID-19 was acquired by Routledge at Johns Hopkins. So, okay, come on. Can't you provide a link anyway? But also, this is my problem. These data sources are freely accessible through web-based archives. How about you tell us?
They're holding tight to their data.
How about you tell us which ones you use? Are they in the references? I don't know, but I would have really liked article or links directly to the data sources. I mean, here's a couple, maybe. Yeah, here we go. Here's some possible ones down here. Ah, man.
They make you dig. This is an academic paper here. This is not written for public consumption, but its applications, I think, are really interesting. And anecdotally, for anybody who has suffered from seasonal allergies in the last month or so, apparently the allergies are really out of control because, again, humans do bad, plants do great. So there's a lot more allergens in the air, as well as our friendly area plants are really enjoying the 2021 spring.
Spanish grant funded this research. Interesting. And a lot of author affiliations. Man, this is a big study.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think it has big applications that we should be paying attention to because the reversal was so stark. I mean, you saw the color shifts in the maps. Places in Mexico that were completely bathed in air pollutants were just essentially cleaned up in 1 year. And I don't think that anybody would necessarily think of that as like, well, here's how we're going to handle climate change. But you know what? Maybe it is how we're going to have to handle climate change. And that'll be a really fun discussion if it ever comes up to where that's a level we might be at sometime. You see less of a stark change in the US, but
what happened to north of France where this got red in the middle of the year, like from nothing to red here, like concentrations?
That, I think if you actually look at the timeline, the middle is actually no, it's not. I don't know.
No, it's jumped.
You know what? I bet it's the nitrogen. It's probably because of the plant, the varieties of plant.
Oh, good point. So
it was right around the time of springtime. So you're going to see and it could be too agricultural. Like it could have been when they're basically putting down fertilizer.
This obviously doesn't. This isn't designed to just do a quick glance and make some assumptions.
No, it's not.
Lots of reading, lots of studying, and I'm
so
not giving it enough credit.
Anybody who loves looking at very dense data-based white papers for your Fun Time Friday evening, this would be one that I would recommend.
This is where the Google Earth time lapse.
Maybe with a good beverage.
Yeah.
Good beverage and a white paper.
So moving on to the next one here. What do we got next? What is this? Where we work?
Yeah, so this was actually, let me pull it up. For those of you who are on Clubhouse, this was a talk that happened a few weeks ago on the GeoInt Clubhouse group that Victor Vichith from Minds Advisory Group came on to talk with one of the founders of the group, Nicholas Smith, to talk about how you can leverage geospatial intelligence to save lives around the world by looking at where hidden mines are, essentially using data and imagery to figure out where leftover mines are from war times, and then to be able to go in and disable them. So this particular organization, which I was not familiar with before, but is basically what they do is trying to educate and show people what it's like, what is necessary in order to find and clear landmines and cluster bombs. And then also how that, again, data can be used to manage weapons and ammunition. So also helping to identify places where weapons and ammunition may be stored in some of these countries, especially kind of older arsenals and things like that. And then they're able to, basically just raise awareness, talk with locals, work with other NGOs and other organizations to help disable these mines. But I think, again, this is obviously something that is happens. I mean, I think you would have to tell about your experience with this working in the government. But I assume a big part of, imagery and intelligence is looking at these type of things. And this is just used from the humanitarian side of countries who do not have the means in which to have big geospatial teams that can go over and look at their own data and figure out where their old landmines and things like that are. Wow, so this organization is doing it.
That's difficult even from an imagery standpoint. There are techniques to do it, or at least attempt to do it. But that's always been, it's definitely it's always a challenge. Let's put it that way. And
honestly, I don't think it's definitely not the only way. And they talk about it's not, geospatial isn't the only way in which they find the mines, but it is a key component. And I think for a lot of these countries too, like, again, finding places where they might have stored ammunition, old arsenals, things like that can be seen from imagery. That also is an important component of kind of like disabling these, essentially artifacts of war that still plague families generations later. So I think that's really inspiring and very cool. And glad that that kind of story was being shared with the geospatial, with the GeoInt community.
Did they share any maps?
Clubhouse is actually it's like audio only. So, it's
sure. I'm actually interested to know if, they have any maps of where they've actually cleared mines, where they suspect mines to be. That would be really interesting.
I think it'd be a fun guest to have on Project Geospatial, though.
Yeah.
Find out more about
in education. I like to be educated where not to walk.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it, is they really help mark them as well. For the ones that they can't actually, specifically clear, how do they help mark? So very cool stuff.
So Joy Geo is posting Project Geo field trip. I don't know about that.
Let's go to Sierra Leone.
Great.
Spring break in Sierra Leone.
So let's move on to the next topic, shall we? Let's see the next one here. So I grabbed this one. This is a Twitter post. So this is announced the release of DEA coastlines. So as Dr. Robbie Bishop Taylor is posting here, It's a brand new Geoscience Australia data set providing annual coastlines and detailed coast change rates along Australia's entire coast from 1988 to now. So if I bring that up,
and they use bright colors. Good for them. This is going to be exciting.
Bright colors? You mean like?
Yeah. I mean, look at it. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of when people take that little extra step of when map making.
Oh yeah, this is kind of a storytelling approach too. I like
yeah.
So we zoom in on some hot spots. So we can kind of look at what's going on.
So we're down in Australia.
I'm flipping through their. I'm trying to define. This is the first time looking at this website, folks. So I might have to take some time to define once again what I'm actually looking at here.
Oh wow!
Represents the medium typical position of where coastlines are approximate mean sea level tide of each year from 1980 to present. So dark colors indicate older coastlines, while white colors represent more recent coastlines. Yeah. So there's a lot of the coastlines are slowly receding, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Well, unless you're on the edge of an urban area and they put up a lot of seawalls and kind of reinforce that whole thing. So.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see in some of these areas where you're going to see a lot of coastline decline.
I like this though. This is fascinating. I think we need this for the entire U.S. coast, if not, globally, just to kind of assess, especially as you got sea level rise happening as well, not just coastal recession.
Yeah. And like I said, they do a really great job of making it, using these brilliant colors to kind of help draw your eye in.
How coastal erosion affects communities and infrastructure. So they got some space here, but so in the distance, in about, I don't know, 20 years, this could be up against the community here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can actually exit out and explore this on my own.
You should take it over to like Florida. I'd be curious to see what Florida looks like.
This is just Australia.
Oh, it's just Australia?
This is Australia coastline. We can't go to Florida in Australia.
Hey, U.S.
By the way, this is built off the cesium. Looks like cesium APIs. So really fascinating there. If you are not familiar with cesium, so they're not using like Google Earth in the background or whatever. They're using actual cesium's globe. So it's a really fast and efficient API. I like when I see applications use something different. It's impressive. So we can go down to, this is Melbourne. Melbourne's a really interesting city. So you can see in the city, there's not a lot of changes really, because everything's kind of holding the line across their kind of coastal walls or their urban areas. But the further we go away from the city, we could see the actual changes here are more drastic. Of course, this is 20 years. And I wonder if you have a measurement tool. There's a measurement tool somewhere. Got it. Thanks. Compare. Well, here we go. Line measurement. That's exactly what I was looking for. They actually have a line measurement tool. And click here to there. We have 113 meters from 93 to 2019.
Wow.
So basically almost a football, longer than a football field, that the coastal erosion has happened in 20 years. Well, longer than that.
And two, that I think that we talk about coastal line erosion, and an interesting part is a lot of times, these coastal lines are butting up against basically like dense forestation. It's not, it's not an endless sand. So I imagine that changes a lot too.
Eventually, vegetation will help prevent, we'll say slow the erosion. I'm not going to say anything's going to stop the ocean. So,
but it will, but it, how many more of these like recreational beaches will be kind of swallowed up?
Well, they'll just refill it with more sand from somewhere else, right? Take the sand from the desert and fill it. That's where a lot of beaches.
They're just going to Dubai it, and they'll just create like weird little
but there's a lot of
resorty
beaches. I think
places.
what was it in Florida or something like that? Where they actually transposed a lot of sand from other locations and brought them in just to help
I didn't know
just
that,
make the beaches
but
more recreational.
makes sense though. I mean, when you have that much tourism, depending on it, you'll go get that sand.
Let's okay. I want to measure this out. This is closer in. This is from 1988 to 2002, so that's a little over 10 years. About 30 meters. Interesting. Anyway, I can spend a lot of time on this one. This is a really cool tool. So props to Dr. Robbie Bishop Taylor for posting that. This is a really awesome data set. You can explore the map at maps.dea.ga.gov.au. So that's pretty much the website. You can go there. That's a fun one. I think I'm going to have to share that out real quick. Project Geospatial. Next one I am going to actually showcase is actually just a fun one. So Map Porn folks posted they just pulled something out of their hat because they post a lot of random maps. But I thought this was awesome. They posted the hand-drawn map of Middle Earth that J.R. Tolkien did when he was conceptualizing the Lord of the Rings. So,
oh, nice.
If you're not aware,
it's topographic.
If you're not aware of that, Courtney, Tolkien actually was very detailed within his books to a point where he mashed up his own maps, not just the whole world building, but he was extensively detailed on the maps that he mashed up from the journey.
He created a whole language for elves, right?
Yeah, but the maps themselves is impressive. Of course, he was in the military at one point, so I guess getting a touch of cartography from his time there might have been heavily useful. So,
oh yeah,
but
this is actually really neat though, because I think when you're watching the movies, it's difficult to get that kind of you're constantly changing perspectives, right? So it's difficult to get an idea of where this is placed in reference to each other. It's hard for me anyway, compared to a book where you have a lot more time to kind of lay it out.
So Rohan is up here. So if you're not familiar with those horse folks, and so this is a lot much more further. So actually, I should compare. Let me see if I can grab a map of Middle Earth so you can actually compare what people have matched up compared to what this is. This is looking at more of a southern perspective. So Gondor or the Minas Tirith is actually right there. Shows how much of Lord of the Rings stuff I know. Yeah, there we go. Let's see. Well, I just grabbed this poster from Amazon. I think this is, for the most part, it shows it. So from this one, the map, this map right here is actually this area right here.
So this is the expanded.
Yeah, it's a heavily zoomed in area of that portion. So it's actually zoomed in right in here.
Very cool.
But
it's neat too that it's like they have
the fact that he hand drawn that detail
with topographic representation.
Topographical representation. Put names and just spent time just world building from a geographical perspective is impressive. Yeah. I wonder how much of the stories was wrapped around him building the geography first.
Well, I mean, I think for any of the, I wouldn't say necessarily fantasy, but yeah, world building kind of novels. And I think that's a big part of it. We want to be transported to an entire different world. There's different layers to that. You can have a less specific, like Harry Potter level of geographic representation. But even within that, there's things placed on maps. You try to figure out it's how far and what, but it's impressive that he kind of built that into his entire model. It was in his head the entire time he was writing.
Absolutely. So, no, I think that's really impressive. So we had a good run, at least tonight, on a lot of different news items. Anything else on the mind from a geospatial perspective?
No, I think we anticipate that GeoInt 2021. I'm guessing registration is not going to be opening just yet, but probably in the next couple months. So it'll be very interesting to see what the pandemic's doing, what's going on with vaccines. I think everybody felt really pretty good about the acceleration, and then we had this issue this week with Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So I'm very curious to see how things are moving in the direction of in-person conferences. So we'll see how Geo in 2021 stacks up, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah. And by the way, we're I'm going to say out loud, if we're going to postpone our St. Louis Geo update, which is scheduled for the 18th for a few days. So Courtney is going to give us an update on the geospatial scene with her monthly updates that she's been doing for the last couple months now. So can't wait to hear more from that. I'm sure you can't either, as you have to dig and do some research, right?
Find out what's the latest here. What's going on?
No pressure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, once again, everybody, you're welcome to hit us up on PM on Twitter. If anytime you want to come on the show, I opened Late Night Geo up. We may not be broadcasting or we would take a break from broadcasting. Even though the broadcast ends, you can PM me from any time between now and midnight Eastern Standard Time. If you want to pop on the show, I'm welcome to talk about anything geospatial related. Let me know. Hit me up, PM me, and we'll get something started. With that said, I'm Adam Simmons here with Courtney Miller on another episode of Late Night Geo. We will catch you next time. Thanks, everyone. Oh, wait. Before I hang up, I forgot one more thing. I am playing it right now, but we have an archive channel at ProjGeo. So twitch.tv at ProjGeo. That's starting our 24/7 archive feed. So it's kind of in test mode right now, but it is playing live as we speak. And I'm setting it up so that it's going to play 24/7 on the website when we're not broadcasting live shows. So keep an eye out for that soon. I mean, it technically is live, but it's going to be directly integrated with our website, and you can check that out anytime, and more details are pending. So, yes, I will tweet the link out. Thank you, Joy of Geo. I will, but I have to make the link work first. So there's things I want people to go to the website so they have a consistent place to find it. So that's what we're waiting on. So Joy of Geo is chatting us on the side using twitch.tv, our Project Geospatial link. So you all are welcome. I welcome comments from the chat room too. I will call you out with your comments, and we will ask questions as they come up. Let's see. Anyway, that truly is the end. So I'm Adam Simmons with Courtney Miller, Late Night Geo. We'll talk to you next time.